Next, on Current News, a statue of a Catholic priest is vandalized.
There was trash all over this monument for murdered freedom fighter Father Jerzy Popoluszko. I'm Emily Druby, and I'll have how clergy is reacting to the crime.
Plus, Pope Francis is praying for India, the country seeing 400,000 new COVID-19 cases in just one day. Moderna says its vaccine booster is very effective against troubling strains. And celebrating teachers.
She's been a fixture at her school for decades, and now after making a lasting impact on generations of students, one diocese teacher says she's just getting started. I'm Jessica Easthope, and that's ahead.
I was kind of shocked, and it's terrible that it's been defaced.
Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio reacting to the vandalism of a slain priest's statue. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. Father Jerzy Popoluszko worked with Poland's solidarity movement against communist control. Recently, vandals covered a statue memorializing him in McCarran Park with trash. The NYPD's hate crimes unit is investigating. Current News' Emily Druby has reaction to the crime from Williamsburg.
In this quiet Williamsburg park, a member of the Guardian Angels protects this statue. It's of Father Jerzy Popoluszko, a Polish martyr. The statue was recently vandalized. Garbage covered the base and a large plastic bag wrapped around the slain priest's head. While not visible in the photos, police confirmed to Current News the words "No Polish" were written on the stone. It's being investigated by the NYPD hate crimes unit. Father Jerzy is considered a Polish hero.
I don't think you could have a better hero than him.
Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio of the Diocese of Brooklyn has a special devotion to him.
He really was a martyr, a man of bravery, who during the solidarity movement, where Poland was trying to free himself from communism, he stood up and was a voice of reason.
Father Jerzy was only 37 when communist officials murdered him. The priest spread the message of nonviolence and was a chaplain for a movement that opposed the ideas of the communist government. He also celebrated large masses during a period of martial law. He was killed in 1984. In 2009, he was declared a martyr. In 2010, he was beatified. By 1990, this statue was erected in Williamsburg's McCarran Park, paid with money collected by the local Polish community. Within weeks of it going up, the head was severed.
When the head was falling on the ground, it was piece broken nose.
The sculptor replaced it with a new one, and the old head was made into a special piece. Father Marek Sobczak showed us where it's kept now, less than a mile away inside St. Stanislaus Kostka Church, a parish with strong Polish roots. Father Marek was hurt when he heard of the latest attack.
To me, that statue represents not only a Catholic faith, but also something very important for all of us. Be good to another person. Try to fight for another person.
While at the statue, we did see several police stop by to check on it. Neighborhood watch group, the Guardian Angels, were there too.
Just making sure that statue is protected and his beautiful memory is protected.
The NYPD says there have been no arrests, but that the investigation is ongoing. In Williamsburg, Brooklyn, Emily Druby, Current News.
Father Jerzy's statue is just the latest monument that's been vandalized here in New York. Last month, the Columbus Circle monument in Midtown was tagged with graffiti. Columbus has been targeted by protesters for his alleged negative treatment of Native people. Also in April, the USS Maine National Monument in Columbus Circle was defaced with anti-police graffiti. Last year, a statue of abolitionist Frederick Douglass in Rochester was ripped from its base in July. And in June, part of the Washington Square Arch in Greenwich Village was doused with red paint. A suspect is in custody for stabbing two Asian women on one of San Francisco's busiest streets. The women, ages 85 and 63 years old, had been waiting for the bus after buying groceries when they were attacked by a man with a large military-style knife. Police say that man is 54-year-old Patrick Thompson, who faces 2 counts of attempted murder and 2 counts of elder abuse. The Archbishop of San Francisco, Salvatore Cordileone, is calling for a change to the anti-Asian rhetoric sweeping the country, saying in a statement, "We must stop hating one another. We must recognize in the other not an object of violence or hate, but a brother or sister made in the image and likeness of God. This is a big challenge for all of us. The San Francisco incident comes as the NYPD reported at least 4 attacks on Asian Americans over the weekend. The department's hate crimes unit is seeing a sharp rise in biased crimes against Asians, with 42 incidents reported in just the first 4 months of 2021. That's compared to 2019, before the pandemic began, when only 1 anti-Asian hate crime was reported in the whole year. 17 arrests have been made for the crimes committed in 2021. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio will be here to talk about racism in America and how the Diocese of Brooklyn is fighting it. That's still ahead in this newscast. India is in the grips of a deadly second wave as it sets another grim record with 400,000 newly reported cases of COVID. And the country's crisis is having a domino effect on other nations, leaving continents like Africa vulnerable as India's government is now suspending vaccine exports. David McKenzie has the details.
The awful consequence of a COVID-19 tsunami. It's forcing the Indian government to ban all vaccine exports to COVAX, the Global Vaccine Alliance, so it can give precious doses to its own people, immediately impacting at least 90 million COVAX doses. The crisis in India is causing a crisis here. Kenyan and other African nations, where lives depend on COVAX, are running out of vaccines. Kenya got around 1 million doses from COVAX, produced by India's Serum Institute. Kenya's supply dries up in days.
I am concerned because they're supposed to be 2 shots. I am concerned. But if it doesn't happen, what is the worst scenario?
Does this worry you? Because it seems that it could be a scenario that the second doses don't come in time.
So very clearly it worries me, and very clearly the second doses will not come in time.
And the millions of AstraZeneca doses promised by the Biden administration won't be enough or come soon enough. Neither will Moderna's vaccine. Up to 500 million doses will be supplied to low and middle income countries, but not until later this year.
Right now, there isn't equal access. So what is the impact of that?
The impact of that is that maybe we are going to prolong this pandemic much longer than it would have happened if there was equal access.
Researchers at Duke University tracking dose availability say the vaccine freeze could have catastrophic consequences, with some African countries facing yet another wave of the virus.
They did put a lot of eggs in the Serum Institute basket, and that was a strategic error, given that what has happened in India was entirely predictable. It should not have caught any of us by surprise.
COVAX maintains it's trying to diversify its supply, but it may be too late. David McKenzie, Johannesburg.
Amid this new surge in India, Pope Francis says he is praying for the country and everyone affected by the pandemic. Writing to the Archbishop of Bombay, the Holy Father says he is praying for all those who have become sick, for their families and caregivers, and for those mourning the loss of loved ones. This, as the World Health Organization says the country accounts for 46% of global cases and 25% of global deaths reported in the past week. Moderna says its COVID-19 vaccine is 96% effective in teenagers. Right now, Moderna's vaccine is authorized under the Food and Drug Administration's emergency use program for people who are at least 18 years old. The company is also testing in children as young as 6 months old and expects to ask for emergency authorization in that group later this year. Meantime, Moderna says a booster shot of its vaccine will help protect against 2 worrying variants. There's a lot more news headed your way. It's Teacher Appreciation Week, and students are showing how thankful they are.
She's just not like the others. She gives us a lot of privileges that I don't think we've had in any other grade.
Coming up, we meet the woman who has been educating students in the diocese for decades, and the church that rose again years after it was covered with water.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
It's Teacher Appreciation Week, and we're honoring educators in the diocese who are making a difference for their students. Today, we spotlight one woman who, after decades of teaching, says she's just getting started educating her young students. Jessica Easthope spoke with her and her students at St. Peter's Catholic Academy in Bensonhurst.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Philomena Piccolo feels at home in a bustling classroom.
Let's go, just a couple more seconds.
But when it's time to settle down and learn, she never yells. But somehow, her students know she means business. Ms. Piccolo has been a teacher at St. Peter Catholic Academy in Bensonhurst for 31 years.
I had second grade here, I had third grade here, and I had first grade here. That's my first year. Let's see.
She's seen thousands of students graduate. One even went on to become her principal.
I actually was a student here myself, and she was a teacher here when I was here. Together every year.
Danielle Alfeo, the principal of St. Peter's, says Ms. Piccolo is a joy to have as a teacher and a friend.
Look at the hair.
Especially when it's time to take a stroll down memory lane.
Or was that something? Thomas LaRosa.
Mrs. Alfeo says Ms. Piccolo's dedication is unmatched.
You can bring your knowledge to the table, but bringing your heart to the table is a whole other story. She remembers the names of all of the children that she taught.
This is my first class here.
She really does remember every kid she's ever taught.
Jason, Anthony,
and what each of them have taught her.
They say to teach is to learn twice. The students have taught me a lot of things, and it just means, helping students to grow.
Her fourth grade students now say she teaches them things you can't find in a book.
She really helps us and understands us. She's just not like the others. She's unique. She gives us a lot of privileges that I don't think we've had in any other grade.
God gave us. She's instructing them on how to stay true to their faith, just as she has.
I can be in a job where I can discuss my faith freely and share my faith with the other students.
As for the next 30 years, Ms. Piccolo plans to do what she does best.
God leads you to where you need to be, and this is where I'll do the most good in my life. As long as I can do it, I plan to do it, definitely.
She's just getting started.
Some interesting things
in Bensonhurst, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
The Diocese of Brooklyn Superintendent of Schools is also taking the time to voice his appreciation for Catholic school teachers, especially during this past pandemic year. Thomas Chadzuko writing, saying thank you seems inadequate when one considers the ever-changing roles that teachers have had to step into during the 2020-2021 school year. Our gratitude and appreciation for our teachers is indescribable. Turning now to this week's Into the Deep. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio talks with former Tablet editor Ed Wilkinson about a big topic right now in America, racism. Ed.
Thank you. Bishop DiMarzio is with us today, and we're going to talk about the great racial divide in this country today. Bishop, the verdict in the George Floyd case was almost just recently announced, and people were quick to go to the microphones and say that this is only a beginning, that we still have a lot of problems to deal with in terms of racism in our society. Do you think that the problem of racism is as bad as the media is depicting it to be?
Well, again, I think racism exists in the minds of people, the way they treat others. Is our nation racist? I don't think so. I think it is the original sin of our country because of slavery. We elected a president of color, we have a vice president of color. If we were a racist nation, that would not have happened. Mm-hmm. So I think that we have to be careful of painting with a broad brush the situation. Yeah, and I've said it. We have the original sin of racism in our blood here because of differences, because of class issues. It's more class today than color. That divides people, and unfortunately, it's also bad attitude towards other people that are different from us.
Yeah, people seem to zero in on policing. Of course, there have been a number of high-profile incidents with the white cops and black victims. Do you think that our policing in this country needs to be revamped because of an inherent racial problem?
I'm not sure that it needs to be revamped. I think I do see community policing as very important, where the community gets to know the police that are there to protect them. I think that's a very good step in the right direction. That's brought about a lot of understanding. I think when we look at our country and the number of incidents, they sound like they're a lot, but the amount of contact that people have, with people that people have, and police have with people of color is exponential. You could, how many times are these things happening? And these few incidents, high profile, lamentable instances in most cases, are, that's what we know. We don't see the ordinary day-to-day functioning of the police with communities of color. I think we would, if you looked at it in perspective, it might not look as bad as it seems.
Bishop, we grew up learning our American history, and we learned about people like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, and now all of a sudden there's a revisionist history coming around that's saying these were people who were slaveholders, therefore they should be canceled from American history. Where do you stand on something like that?
Well, I think, anachronism is a big problem. When you look back in the past and you try to apply what we know today, today's standards, to the past, we've made great progress in this country. I don't think we can judge the people, historical people, from our viewpoint. Got to be very careful of that. Again, there are certain things that are definitely wrong, but when you see a societal issue like slavery, which was accepted at that time, and where people were doing other things to promote justice, we recognize that there's a balance somehow.
Yeah, the bishops, of course, have put out a couple of statements on racism in the country, and what kind of an effect do you think that has on the church?
Well, we try to make people aware of what the church teaching is. The racism statement about 2 years ago now has had a good effect on us in our own diocese. We set a commission up to study it and to see if there was racism within our church, number one, and any other way we could find it to kind of stamp it out. So we do believe that there is racial prejudice, clearly, and racism is the major issue. That's how it comes about. But there's it's complicated factors. It's not so clear that we would say that this is the problem and this is the solution. Right. It's a complex social issue.
Okay, Bishop, thanks so much for your insights on this situation. And now we're going to go back to our news desk.
Thanks, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. Still to come on Currents News, a historic church that vanished underwater decades ago is reappearing, and how one professor is working to bring back Catholic creative writing. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. A historic church has risen from the waters of a central Mexican lake decades after being submerged. The Church of the Virgin of Dolores disappeared in 1979 when a dam was built and flooded the community. A recent drought that has plagued the surrounding area in recent months has brought the historic church back into the sunlight. From a historic church to history being made at a Catholic college in Texas, the University of St. Thomas in Houston is offering a first-of-its-kind program. Professor James Matthew Wilson is the director of the Master of Fine Arts program in creative writing and joins us now. And James, what makes this program different is that it highlights Catholic literature. You've talked about a Catholic literary renaissance. Why is that needed?
Well, in the early 20th century, there was a fabulous flourishing of Catholic writers, Flannery O'Connor, J.F. Powers, Thomas Merton, who brought both the Catholic faith and its intellectual tradition to the broader American public, and which therefore sort of lifted up both American culture and also life in the church for a good deal of time. It's been a long time since Catholics occupied that kind of pivotal place in American culture, and so we want to help restore it. And the time is ripe because there actually are a great number of terrific Catholic writers working today and who are committed to staging a renaissance of bringing back to the center of American culture some of the great things that the Catholic Church and the tradition has to offer to the world.
So has there been interest in a program like this at the college? You know, there have been studies done before the pandemic that show college students have become less religious. I know you're a Catholic college, so it may not hold true, but have your students expressed an interest in Catholic literature specifically?
For years, I have been contacted by young people at from colleges across the country, some of them at small Catholic colleges, some of them at large state schools, all of them saying, where can I go study literature the way literature is meant to be studied? Where can I go learn to write from somebody who really cares about the craft of writing and cares about the spiritual depths that really belong, that are proper to art? And I almost never had any place to send them. I didn't expect that I was going to found the program where I would send them, but such is the case.
That's great. So what will students get out of this class? How will the courses be different than other college creative writing courses?
One thing that all of our students will get is a completely unified curriculum from the beginning of the program to its conclusion that will give them a good historical knowledge of the great works in the Western and Catholic tradition, the kinds of writers that they should be reading to draw inspiration from for their own work, and the kinds of literature that restores three basic things to our sense of art. A sense for the sacred, a sense for both the depths and the heights of reality, and also, and maybe even above all, a real appreciation for form, for the need for beauty to be present in contemporary literature.
All right, I want to read an excerpt from an Elizabeth Jennings poem that will be covered in this class. Moses and Jesus have climbed, lesser men too. What throngs of thought have risen from the ground? What findings of what's true? So talk a little bit about what the writer is trying to convey and what you want your students to learn from that.
Yes, that's Elizabeth Jennings was a great English Catholic poet from the middle of the 20th century. She actually only died a few years ago. And she's, as time goes on, she's coming to be appreciated as one of the greatest of poets in the 20th century. And in this poem, she really shares an image of what it's like to live within the church and what it's like to think with the church. Moses and Jesus climbed the mountain before us, but we sense that our intellectual lives call us to new heights. So often in our day, there's no presentation of the heights, no presentation of, as it were, the sunlight that crowns existence. And so our program is committed to helping students journey upwards to regain a sense of the spiritual, the sacred, the divine in both the works they read and the works that they write.
Wow, it sounds so interesting. James Matthew Wilson, director of the new MFA program in creative writing at the University of St. Thomas in Houston. Thanks for telling us about it.
Thank you so much.
One more thing, you can take the courses online if you'd like to apply to this MFA program in creative writing at the University of St. Thomas in Houston. Head on over to sttom.edu/MFA. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.